just as a personal friend, as well as someone who helped you with politics, he was the one to call on because he would do it and do it willingly.
I know that it's a great loss, not only for his family, but for the state of Texas.
Mark White was not only a statesman, he was funny, and he was real, and he was genuine, and he was lively. He was the most entertaining guy to be around, and it's just hard to believe he's gone.
Words uttered by everyone we spoke with as we look back on the life of former Governor Mark White.
America's marching forward. We don't march backward.
Tonight, we are remembering the 43rd governor of Texas. Mark White passed away in his home this morning at the age of 77. The flags are flying at half-staff outside the state capitol in honor of his memory. He was the last surviving Democratic governor of Texas, serving from 1983 to 1987. White had served in state government for the 14 years prior, first as Secretary of State, then as Attorney General. During White's time in office, improving public education was one of his top priorities. White pushed for higher teacher pay and saw the SAT scores of Texas students rise during his time in office. But his policy of no pass, no play for public school athletes resulted in an angry backlash. That, coupled with the weak economy and other factors, motivated Republican Bill Clements to run against him. He was the governor before White. In 1987, Clements was sworn in again as governor, returning the seat to Republican hands. White returned to Houston to practice law, and in 1990 ran in the Democratic primary in an attempt to move back to the governor's mansion. But his comeback attempt was stopped by Ann Richards. After Richards won the general election, White dropped out of public life. Today, I sat down with several people who had plenty of memories to share.
Governor White was a conservative, fiscally responsible governor, but he believed in the importance of funding public education.
We met 4 years ago when I was running for comptroller. I almost fell off my chair when he called me and just introduced himself and went right into, here's how you campaign in Texas.
I talked to the governor 2 or 3 days ago. We were talking about the history of the Chisholm Trail, which is 150 years old this year. We were talking about the bathroom bill, which he didn't agree with. We were talking about stuff that was going on in Washington. And so when the governor's mansion caught fire in an arson fire in 2008, I was a reporter. I went over to cover the story. And sitting on the wall in front of the governor's mansion, while the firefighters were still trying to tamp down the last embers and stuff, was Mark White and his wife, among a number of other state officials. So I immediately gravitated to him because he had experienced much the same thing with a fire loss at the Capitol. And at some point, he stood up. Everybody was upset about the building burning, but he stood up and said, we've got to bring this building back.
And he was campaigning. Even the last time I had lunch with him, he made sure that everybody in the restaurant knew that it was Governor Mark White and engaged them in a conversation, and people just really gravitated towards him. And right up to the end, he was passionate about Texas and energetic, and boy, we're going to miss him.
What were some of your... And going in depth, education was one of the top issues White focused on during his inauguration speech. He said, quote, we must demonstrate to our teachers that they occupy an honored place in our society. We look back and found education was a common theme among the past 8 governors. You can see each of those speeches on KXAN.com. Right now, lawmakers are once again tackling the Texas school system. Just yesterday, the Texas House passed a $1.8 billion plan to begin overhauling the state's troubled school finance system. This same bill passed the House during the regular session but died in the Senate. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick calls the plan a Ponzi scheme. Full school finance reform is required since Texas's Supreme Court ruled the system minimally constitutional.